Hello and welcome to my awesome dungeon runner game. In my code I have declared some variables for the map here called rows and calls, which are set to the value of 15 and 20 to make it 15 wide and 20 long, or vice versa. I declare my variable for my character here with this symbol, and then I give it a position called x1 and y1, and I declare a variable called key, which shall listen for the input from the user. I will explain more about that later. And I have a variable of an integer called health, which I set equal to 5. Then I have this 2D array called map, which is based on the rows and calls value. And then I make the layout of it in this structure. Yeah, not much to say about that other than these dollar signs are supposed to be the wall. Then I create a struct of enemies, which with an integer here, I declare enemy 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and with a character variable I declare enemy 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as well. I now set the enemy struct to a variable enemies, and then I declare the value of the enemies down here. E1 is equal to 1, E2 is equal to 2, and so forth. And then that was the integers. With the characters I simply declare them the same value just as a character, which means that it's not a value but a symbol. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I create my loop here and say as long as the key is not equal to Q and health is above 0, I see out health and then make a new line, and then I see out the map here in this double nested for loop. This works the way that I set R to the value of 0, and as long as R is below the value of rows, which I declared in the beginning, I add 1 to the I add 1 to R, and then I see out an end line, so I get a new line. And in the nested for loop here I have another one, it's called C, which is set equal to 0, and C is, as long as C is below the value of calls, I add 1 value to C, and then I simply output the map here of position Y and position, no, I do not output the map here, I output the value of the player, the position of the player, based on position Y and position X of the map. And then I output the map here based on R and C, which I declared in this nested for loop here. So this basically gives me an output of all the values I created in this 2D array in the beginning and not just half of it. Then I have an input here that listens to the input from the user, which key he or she presses. It's a switch case and it listens for key. And I'm going to explain only one of the WASD buttons since it's basically the same with them. So if I just explain the W, it's basically it listens to this if sentence if map position Y minus equals 1, position X is equal to the dollar sign, which means that is equal to a wall, then map position Y plus equals 1, position X is equal to the player. So the player doesn't move in when there is a dollar sign above him, but the player loses 1 health because he accidentally walked into a wall. If it is not the case that it is a dollar sign that is above the player when he walks there. Then it listens to the next one, which is map position y position x, if it is equal to the enemy one. If so, the player loses 1 health, and the map will change in this form that the previous position of the player will become equal to a space, and the previous position of the enemy will become equal to the player. So the enemy is moved and the player is moved and replaced with a space. This outcommented line I had here is basically, I thought I was supposed to see out the map again in the beginning, but I figured out that it wasn't necessary, so I just didn't delete it when I tested it, but it works without those, so that's nice. Then I basically do the same thing with enemy 2 here, except the player loses 2 lives instead of 1. And the same goes with enemy 3, which is a decrease of 3 lives. Life health, the integer health decreases with 3, as well as with 4 and 5. This one is different. It's an add symbol. If the player walks into an add symbol, it's the same thing happens as with the enemies. The player moves up and the previous position of the player will be replaced with a space, but the player will gain 1 life, not lose. So we add 1 to the value, to the integer health here. If none of the above has happened, the design of the 2D array simply makes no other opportunity available but a space, and this one basically reverses those. The player moves up and the previous position of the player becomes a space, and it breaks here, so it does not execute the S as well. Same thing goes with the case S and the case D, the case A. Oh, there's actually one thing in the case D here. There's a letter in the 2D array E, which can only be accessed by using the case D. So this one listens to whether the map position y position x is equal to E. If it is equal to E, and map position 3 1 is equal to a space, and 1 3 is equal to a space, and 2 15 is equal to a space, and map 10 12 is equal to a space, and map 13 8 is equal to a space, it will execute this. Map 13 18 will be equal to a space. That's weird. Well, I don't think this has any meaning actually, but yeah. Anyhow, the player moves to the right, and the previous position of the player becomes a space. And then I basically output 2 empty lines, and the lines, congratulations, you won the game. And 2 new lines, and then your time. Your time was meant to be something, but it did not happen because I wanted to implement a timer so you can see how fast you did it and try to challenge yourself, but in lack of time I didn't do it, so yeah. Anyhow, that's the only difference. Oh, and all these positions in the maps I mentioned up here, those are the previous position of the already placed enemies. My enemies doesn't move, so that's how I was able to do this. The last case I have is a queue, which in the beginning of this while loop up here, I stated that as long as key is not equal to q and health is above 0, I should output the map. So that means that if I press Q, I will exit the application, and if health is below 0, the application will terminate as well. So if we go to the game here, you can see my character in the upper left corner, and my health bar in the upper left outside the map, and then all places in the map have some random thing that I just explained. There's some ad symbols put out in the map that gives you 1 life, and then there are the enemies 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if I try to play here, you can see that now I have 5 health, and I will go down to the enemy number 1 now, which means I will lose 1 life. And don't mind this number here, that number 1, it's some sort of bug. I couldn't find out where it came from, but yeah, just abstract from it. So I now have 4 life, and I go down to this ad right here, and this should give me 1 life as well. So now I'm back on 5 lives. Then you can move around the map here. Unfortunately, you have to press enter each time, so that's unfortunate, but it seemed out of my skills to remove that or implement something so you wouldn't have to press enter. Now I lose 4 lives since I go down to number 4, and true it is, I lose 4 lives. Please notice the E over here in the right corner, down where I am now. That is the goal, and I can only access it with a D, as I explained in the code. But in order to access it, I will have to remove all the enemies first. So yeah, let's just do that. Should take no time. These awesome graphics should definitely win some sort of Nobel Prize. Damn. The game is also built so that if you accidentally go into a wall and lose 1 life, you will not be able to win the game. Because as you see now, I've made no mistakes, and I only have 1 life, which means that if I would have walked into a wall accidentally, I would have had 0 lives which would have terminated the application. But now I collected all the enemies, or destroyed them if you will, and now I will go to the exit. Congratulations, you won the time. And your time is equal to 1. Whoa. But I can't find that in the code anyhow. It should be up here if it was somewhere, but yeah. Anyhow, I don't know. Well, that's my program, so thank you for watching, and I will terminate this now.